Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some sources that tackle something a lot of us wrestle with.
Yeah, that cycle of negative thinking, right, and how we can actually, start shifting towards more positive, constructive patterns.
Exactly. And what these sources seem to offer is, well, it's less theory and more like a practical guide, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It's a roadmap.
Yeah.
Moving from just understanding the problem, how these thoughts grip us, to giving us actual techniques, things you can do.
Right. To change how you interact with your own thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission here is to really pull out the key insights, the most important stuff from this material.
The goal is giving you takeaways to help quiet that, that inner noise.
Yeah, if you've ever felt kind of weighed down by thoughts, that mental clutter. Well, this deep dive is for you. Let's jump in.
Okay.
So the material kicks off by describing negative thoughts in a really vivid way, almost like physical weights.
By trying to swim with anchors tied to your ankles, yeah. That's a good analogy they use.
Invisible anchors, just constantly draining your energy, making everything feel, well, harder.
And a big part of that, which the sources really highlight, is rumination.
Right, rumination.
Which isn't, productive thinking. It's that mental hamster wheel.
Just going round and round.
Yeah, replaying old hurts, worrying endlessly about what might happen. It just amps up the anxiety, doesn't actually solve anything.
And that inner voice, the one that's always criticizing.
Oh, yeah.
Saying you're not good enough, you can't do it. The sources stress how easily that gets internalized.
It stops feeling like just a random thought and starts feeling like the truth about you.
Exactly.
And the damage isn't just, feeling bad. The sources talk about this snowball effect, a real downward spiral.
How so?
Well, one negative thought kind of invites its friends, right? But it goes beyond your mood. It feeds into chronic stress.
Which affects your body.
Absolutely impacts your immune system, can even strain relationships because you might be more irritable or withdrawn. But here's the key thing, the hopeful part they all emphasize. These are learned patterns, habits.
Not fixed personality traits.
Exactly. And if they're learned...
They can be unlearned. Okay, that's crucial. So if they're learned habits, where do you even start? What's step one?
Awareness. It always starts with awareness. The sources are really clear on this.
You can't change what you don't see.
Precisely. You need to become like an observer of your own mind. Just noticing the thoughts without immediately buying into them or getting swept away.
Like being a detective for your own thoughts.
Kinda, yeah. Noticing when that inner critic pops up. What tends to trigger it?
Okay.
And the material points out that these thoughts, they often fall into predictable patterns. They call them cognitive distortions.
Cognitive distortions.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds a bit academic, but what does that actually mean? Like, what kinds of patterns are we talking about?
Yeah, it sounds technical, but the examples make it clear. The sources list quite a few common ones, like catastrophizing.
Right. Assuming the absolute worst case scenario.
Totally. One tiny mistake, and suddenly you're thinking, I'm getting fired. My life is over.
Yeah, I know that one.
Or all or nothing thinking. Everything's either perfect or it's a total disaster.
No shades of gray.
None. If you don't ace the project, the whole thing was a complete failure in your mind.
Gotcha.
And another big one is personalization. Blaming yourself for things that are way outside your control.
Like thinking your friend is mad at you just because they seem quiet, even if it has nothing to do with you.
Exactly that. And just recognizing these as patterns, not as reality, that's a huge first step.
Okay, putting a name to it helps. So you understand these patterns exist. How do you actually, train yourself to catch them? Is there a tool?
Yes. Thought journaling is highly recommended across the sources.
Okay, how does that work?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. When you notice a thought that's upsetting you, you jot down. What was the situation? What was the exact thought? How did it make you feel? Then you look at it. You try to identify the pattern. You can literally label it like, okay, that's catastrophizing again. Or, yep, all or nothing thinking.
So labeling it does what? Creates some distance.
That's exactly it. The sources explain it helps externalize the thought. It's not you, it's a pattern you're experiencing.
Something you have, not something you are.
Right, and that automatically reduces its power over you. It becomes something you can observe rather than something that just runs the show.
Okay, so first step, awareness. Shining that light, recognizing patterns. Step two then is about interrupting them.
Yes, interrupting the flow. Once you see that negative loop starting up.
And the sources say this isn't about suppressing thoughts, right? Because that doesn't really work.
Exactly. Suppression often backfires, pushes it down only for it to pop up later, maybe even stronger. It's about interrupting.
So how do you do that?
Well, one technique mentioned frequently is the STP technique. Simple name, simple idea. When you catch that negative spiral starting, you mentally or even physically, if you can, like take a deep breath, just pause and internally yell, SOP.
Like visualize a stop sign.
Yeah, some sources suggest exactly that. A big, red, mental stop sign. Create a hard pause.
Okay, so you hit the mental brakes, you've created a pause. What happens next? What do you do in that gap?
That interruption is your reset button. It buys you a crucial few seconds to choose differently.
Choose a different path.
Right. And the sources suggest using that moment for, say, mindfulness. Just ground yourself. What do you see, hear, smell, right now?
Bring yourself back to the present moment.
Or use purposeful distraction. Shift your focus completely onto something absorbing. A task, music, anything positive. It's not avoiding forever. It's consciously redirecting your mental energy right then.
Okay, that makes sense. Create a pause, then redirect. Now, this next part is really exciting, I think. The sources talk about our brains actually being able to change. It's not just managing the old stuff, but like actively rewiring.
Yes, neuroplasticity. It's such a hopeful concept.
Explain that a bit.
Think of your brain like a field with paths in it. Negative thought patterns are like these really well-worn, deep paths you walk down automatically.
Okay.
Every single time you interrupt a negative thought, challenge it, redirect your attention, you're starting to wear a new path in that field.
I see.
And the more you use that new, more helpful path, the clearer and stronger it gets, while the old one starts to fade a bit from disuse. You're literally reshaping the connections.
Wow. Okay, so how do you actively build those new paths? How do you challenge the thoughts effectively?
Cognitive reframing is the main technique discussed here.
Reframing. Okay.
It means actively questioning those automatic negative thoughts. Asking yourself things like, is this thought 100% true? Absolutely.
Putting it on trial, almost.
Kind of, yeah. What's the actual evidence for this thought? And just as important, what's the evidence against it?
Looking for the contradictions.
Exactly. Often, just doing that reveals the thought isn't the whole story, or maybe it's not accurate at all. That opens space to reframe it to find a more balanced, realistic perspective.
And this takes practice, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. The material stresses that, and it mentions celebrating the small wins. Just noticing a distortion or successfully using SDOP, acknowledge that progress. That fuels you to keep going.
Right. So it's not just stopping the negative. It's also about actively building the positive, like cultivating more inner sunshine.
That's a great way to put it. Yes, the sources definitely advocate for proactive positivity building.
What kind of techniques do they suggest?
Gratitude comes up a lot. Making it a practice. Maybe each day, jot down, 3 to 5 things you're genuinely grateful for.
Doesn't have to be huge things.
Not at all. Small things count. It's not about denying difficulties exist. It's about rebalancing your focus to consciously include the good stuff, too.
Which is always there, if you look.
Usually, yes. Then there are things like positive affirmations.
Affirmations. Do they really work?
The sources suggest they can, but with a key point. They need to feel believable to you. Choose statements that resonate, that feel encouraging, not like you're lying to yourself.
Okay, believable encouragement. Makes sense. What else?
Visualization is another tool. Actually picturing yourself handling situations well, feeling calm, achieving a goal, using your imagination constructively.
Interesting. And underlying all of this, is there like a foundational element needed for any of these to really stick?
Absolutely. Self-compassion, this comes through so strongly in the material.
Being kind to yourself through the process.
Yes. Trying to beat negative thoughts into submission with more self-criticism just doesn't work. It's counterproductive. Real change, lasting change, happens when you approach this whole thing with kindness, patience, and understanding for yourself.
That's a really important reminder. So let's talk benefits. You put in this work, awareness, interrupting, reframing, cultivating positivity. What happens? Beyond just feeling a bit less stressed, maybe. What are the real-world impacts?
Oh, the sources list a whole cascade of benefits. It's pretty impressive.
Like what?
Well, first off, boosted resilience. You bounce back better from challenges and setbacks.
That's huge.
Definitely. Then there's improved physical health, lower stress hormones, better immune function. Some studies even link optimism to longer lifespan.
Wow. Okay.
And when your mind isn't constantly cluttered with negativity, it frees up bandwidth. So expanded creativity, better problem-solving skills.
A clearer mind thinks better.
Exactly. And it impacts your connections with others, too. Stronger relationships, often built on a more positive and trusting foundation.
So it really ripples outwards.
It really does.
So wrapping this up then, the sources seem to frame this journey. It's not about achieving some state of perfect, constant happiness, is it?
No, not at all. Negative thoughts happen to everyone. It's more about building your toolkit,
Hmm.
gaining skills and resilience to navigate your inner world more effectively, more consciously.
So you're not just swept away by every negative thought that pops up.
Right, and reinforcing that really powerful idea, you do have the agency, the power to change these
Your
patterns.
mind isn't fixed.
Not at all. It's a tool you can learn to shape with practice, with intention. You can change your thoughts, and by doing that, you really can change your experience of life.
Okay, so just to recap the big points we've covered from the sources, we talked about understanding negative thoughts as those invisible anchors.
hmm And learning to spot the patterns, the cognitive distortions, like catastrophizing or all or nothing thinking.
Then using practical tools like thought journaling for awareness.
And the STOP technique to create that crucial pause.
Then actively rewiring through cognitive reframing, questioning those thoughts.
And alongside that, proactively cultivating the good stuff, gratitude, believable affirmations, visualization.
And underpinning it all, that crucial element of self-compassion.
Exactly. These are really powerful practical steps outlined in the material. They show that shifting your mental landscape, it's genuinely achievable.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, building on everything we've discussed. If these negative thought patterns are often learned habits, things we've maybe unconsciously built up over years, what does it really mean to consciously choose to unlearn them?
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, what kind of new, positive, more empowering habits are you ready to courageously choose to start building today,
Mm-hmm.
right now? Something to think about as you navigate your own mind.